Welcome to Coffee Talk, where I interview people who have done really awesome things in the entrepreneurial space. Today I'm talking to Larry Guilford. Larry Guilford has a resume that really shines, and he's not for hire, but
maybe.
But Larry, tell us your story about entrepreneurship, how you got into it, and how you got to where you are today, and what you're doing.
I think some people would really kind of wonder how they get to a certain point and really don't understand it. But looking back, it's kind of easier. My family were just working class family. My mom was a teacher. My dad was helped put windows in schools that kids would knock out, and he did that for many years. But so I never really had an entrepreneurial, growing up at home. They just had the work ethic was strong,
right?
But not from a standpoint of, I didn't have a lot of examples.
Yeah.
I was fortunate. I got while I was going for my degree in accounting, I was able to work at a couple of accounting firms during that same 4-year period. And so I learned a lot and was exposed to a lot of different businesses, top executives of Ford Motor Company, because I was in Michigan. So I got exposed to many, many things. And then after I left that, then I went to work with a company called Masco Corporation, and I worked for the top 3 executives, and Masco is a Fortune 500 company.
Right.
So I got to see the CEO, the president of the company, and 1 vice president, and really I just worked under their, under their authority, and basically to try to do personal investments, other investments, and things like that. And it took me out of the accounting thing and into the area, my first glimpse in the area of real estate. And later on, I was offered a position to come to Florida, where I used to come a week a month for the first 2 years. Then after that, came down for a period of time. They offered me, they had nobody to run a division they were doing down here. And so where Lake Bernadette is and some of those things in Zephyr Hills, I put the first streets in that area and so on.
Yeah, you were doing development then?
Yeah, kind of development, sales, you kind of, everything kind of thrown into it. And, but for one reason or another, I was supposed to get percentage of the ownership and everything, and certain things don't always happen.
Right.
And so that was, I think, around 1980, I guess.
Right.
And at that point in time, they didn't want me around anymore, and I probably was tired of them too. And so basically I was fired, out of the blue. And so, wow, it's like, that's an eye opener.
Yeah.
Only time ever,
right.
At that time. And it wasn't because of the work. It was really just, they didn't, I had ownership things promised and it didn't happen. It was the biggest reason. And so I haven't had a job since 1980, so that's
nice.
Going a long time. And so basically, I went on my own, I already had my real estate license, and then I went on to get my broker's license. And then a company wanted me to join with them, 50-50, and I did. And I found out they were not the most trusting company. You find out things as you kind of get involved thinking good things. So it's not always a bed of roses maybe to start out, okay?
Sure.
And be ready for those bumps in the road.
Right.
But then after about a year, I was able to work through those things, had closings, going through, and have really had my own company really since like 81 or 82.
Yeah.
And really, I think by having your own company, you have the opportunity to control your own destiny. And I think that's really the key. You can work for someone, 40 hours a week, 50 hours a week, whatever it is. You can get a few weeks vacation. If you like the 9-to-5 job, that's probably the way to go, because most entrepreneurs don't work 9 to 5.
Right.
So I think that's kind of one characteristic of an entrepreneur is be willing to just do about anything. Because sometimes you don't know what path you're going to need to do that day. So I think that could be one great way to go. You learn. You have. I tell everyone, yes, I have a degree from the University of Detroit. That's where my degree was from.
Yeah.
And it's a bachelor's degree in that. But I consider myself having more than a master's from Harvard in the School of Hard Knocks.
Right.
Okay, because it's cost me more, and you learn from that way, and that's where you really learn. You learn business by doing business.
Right.
And I think that's when a lot of people don't really understand.
Yeah, I would agree. I dropped out 3 times and have no degree, and I think I know quite a lot about business. So, so you had the real estate business. You still have Sunshine.
Sun America Realty.
Sun America Realty.
Correct.
I should know that.
You should. Yeah.
But then you started. I mean, you own a bunch of properties, and you're playing this big game with real estate, and then you also now have the block at Venue at the Block and Zone Works. What made you go from? I mean, have you had other businesses before that, between Sun America and the Block?
Well, Sun America's been there a long time. It changed entity, but it's the same name and everything. Changed from one to an LLC, but it's the same deal. But I think a lot of people that are in real estate, I have, if they're licensed or whatever as a salesperson or as a broker, many of them are really people who are really just doing a job. I mean, you're working on commission for the most part,
right?
And you're at that point in time, you're really, excuse me, use my throat. So I think a lot of people, when they get to that, are really just doing a 9-to-5 job that isn't 9 to 5, basically, because you're at other people's demands. Go see this property, do that kind of thing.
Bring me here on Saturday and
Correct.
Sunday.
But I think the thing that really separates you, because you want to provide for your own destiny, if you're just doing a job and doing sales commission, working on sales commission, then you're going to be doing that till you're 80 or whatever.
Right.
Okay. But I think if you could know what real estate can do for you, by having real estate, by watching it grow, look how much it's helped people in the last 24 months.
Right.
It's been phenomenal. You bought a house at 300, now there's 500 or whatever. Those kind of things, I think you have to realize the intrinsic value of what real estate can provide for you. And I'm living proof of what it's done. I had, I was making 12 grand a year back in the day, and had really no properties whatsoever. When I came down here, rented for a little bit, even that time. But I think it's what those properties would help you increase your net worth, and then help you become, so you can do other things that you might want to do.
Yeah.
Other kind of areas. So the real estate, Sun America Realty, with the commission-wise, that was really a vehicle to find properties, to get commissions, to pay the daily costs I have of living. But then buying properties would be a way for you to provide for your future net worth and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm.
So what made you, what made you want to go with starting an event venue and then, a wedding venue and the co-working space and all this that you bought the old GM dealership in downtown Dade City. I know this wasn't a question I was going to ask, but I just thought about it now. I'm like, what made you even want to do that? Out of real estate, was it? Yeah,
it was kind of, I kind of semi-retired in 2012, and I was in the Philippines doing I do a lot of charity work too. Right. So I've been in Ukraine doing charity work since 2003, rebuilt an orphanage and stuff. Mm-hmm. So that was always in the back of my mind, doing those kind of things. And so at 12, I kind of just changed, and I kind of went over there for 6 months and did some other work here and there. But in 15, I said, I really would like to generate some more funds so that I could do more. And I said I would do that for 2 to 3 more years, and that was in 2015, and here we are in 2020, and we're still doing similar things. But it helps us do a lot of things in the area. Yeah. So in one of the meetings, actually, we were at PHSC, with Lisa Richardson, and it was a kind of a meeting of mostly of members of the chamber, and we were just kicking around some ideas, and we talked about the building, and everybody said, "Hey, Larry, you should do that building." That's kind of how it started. Yeah. So I looked into it more, and I'd always loved the first brick building, which is 14307 7th, and that's where we put the brew house now, and the restaurant, and then also where we do the wedding events, and also the CrossFit is also there. Right. And but it was a shaky period of time, because I went into it. It was like a year and a half of planning. Right. It's an older building. There were no plans anywhere, so we had to recreate everything. And then during the time, it was probably one of the more scariest times of my career, to be honest, because we were doing started the construction in October, and then everything hit the fan in January. January started, so 3 months later, and here we are. I always say like I'm the poster child for COVID, basically, because I'm trying to do fitness center, brew house, a restaurant, and an event center. I mean, the
all the things that should not be there during COVID.
Exactly right, and it weren't. So holding people together, finding the people to do the brew house and then do that part. They're doing a great job. Having the CrossFit people, they had another problem where they had come from. So, but we worked with them through that period of time as well. And then we put, the concept people in there with Green Door and Greg Fowler, and we put them together in the thing. And then we do the venue there. And we had our first event there last October. And I think we've had 14, 15 weddings already in this brief period of time. And other events too, chamber events and so on.
Yeah.
So, but there was a period of time, I will be totally honest with you, a total of, in that first 6 months of construction, after the 3, the next 6 months was like I was paying the draws out of the thing because there was no construction loans. I was paying it out of cash. Didn't know the future of what this COVID thing's all about or what it's going to do.
Right.
And so it was a scary time, and I asked myself that question many times. Why did I do this to myself? But it's turned out to be an amazing.
Why did we do this?
Yeah. And not just one time, many times.
Yeah.
But we were able to work through. The First National Bank of Pasco was very good in working with me from a standpoint of how we're going to massage this because it was new for them too. That period of time.
Yeah.
So we were able to work through all those things, and we went through all the draws and finished that out. And we got the CO in June of last year. So it's been not quite a year since we had the CO, and then opened for the events area in October of last year.
So final question. If somebody watching today is living paycheck to paycheck, let's say they're working a 9-to-5 job and they want to start their own business, but they really don't have any money to start their own business, what's your best advice to give them? Maybe the best advice that was given to you, or maybe just some advice that you've learned over the years?
I would say, first of all, you have to have a pretty strong work ethic because, it's easy if you don't have set hours where someone's saying you can be here at 9 o'clock, then you don't start the day. So you got to have your own, that's a given. You got to be driven from that standpoint. I'd say the other two things always is capital, how you're going to raise capital or everything for whatever you're going to do, and have mentorship. I think it's really important. I had a lot of mentorship from other people at the different places I worked at later. I didn't have it at home because they weren't entrepreneurs.
Right.
But I did learn that from other places, and I definitely for sure got that from other ways. So those things, and don't be afraid to go out and ask someone hey, can we have lunch? And talk with them, get some ideas as far as how they did their business, how they started, what they pitfalls, or just some things like that. And find 2 or 3 people. And it'd be really great if you're in the same business or similar, but it doesn't have to be. It could be how they run their business or whatever. But those 3 things, I think, are definitely 3 of the most important things in doing that.
Yeah.
Being able to have the time set aside to be able to do what you want to do. Finding the capital. Now, when I started, I had no money to put down payment down. Some of my commissions I put into the deal sometimes, occasionally. But I also found like I had a lot of doctors, dentists, lawyers that were partners of mine back in the days, and they had the money.
Right.
So I was looking for people like that helped fund it, and we bought properties together and things. So I might end 10%. So it wasn't looking for that one property to own 100%. I may have 10% of this one, 25% of that, maybe 100% of that one.
Yeah.
If I had held out for like getting one property and 100, I might still be looking for that property or having one property without my eggs in one basket.
Right.
And not everything is going to be peachy rosy. You're going to have some things that where you do have unforeseen circumstances that pop up. And but you got to be ready with them and roll with the tide. Have some reserves, just like whether you're living wise, to have like 3 to 6 months minimum for your living expenses. Yeah. Just a normal, even if you have a 9-to-5 job. The same goes for business. Have that thing so you don't need to try to find money Monday, for paying some people on Wednesday. It's going to be a difficult kind of thing. Yeah. You're always concentrating on that. Doesn't mean I haven't done that. You're learn from me. Right. Because it's part of the thing. And there's a lot of other different. And be open to, the internet is so filled with so many ideas, how you can solve problems, more than when I had. Yeah. So I think I would refer to that as my 4th thing, because there are just a zillion answers out there you can get like that. Yeah. And I think that's very important.
Yeah. I think one thing that you said about like going in with somebody else, if you're going to buy a property, one thing my father-in-law always says, that his best friend always said, is 10% of something is a lot better than 100% of nothing.
Correct.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, thank
If you put all your stuff in that one basket and it goes down, then then you get disheartened. You get all kinds of different things.
Right. Yeah. Well,
But
thank you for coming and giving us your time. Your time is valuable, and thanks for sharing with all the viewers, however many there are. This is the first one, so we'll see.
Okay.
But thanks for talking over coffee.
My pleasure. Thanks, John.